Holy City Center Radio, this is episode 325, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Monday, December 23rd, 2024. Merry early Christmas. Yes, just a couple days away. Hopefully you are ready for the holidays, and I know it's not going to be the case for everyone, but I hope you all have some time off on Christmas Day. I know there's several different folks, in different industries that'll need to work, but hopefully you'll get some other time to spend with family and enjoy your holiday season. I will be flying out of Charleston soon, going home to see my family, and I'm very excited about that. Very much looking forward to it. Planning on still having the show come out this week more than today's episode, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. It's been pretty quiet in my world, nothing really exciting to talk about, so let's get into the news. Already there's an update on the Alpha Genesis lab in Yemassee. I mentioned on the last episode that there has been an incident that PETA has talked about and that supposedly the USDA was investigating, but there's been nothing coming out from the lab itself until, well, of course, after I recorded that episode, there was an update. So here's what we know. An undisclosed number of monkeys died in an enclosure on the Alpha Genesis breeding and research campus back over the Thanksgiving holiday. The company president, Greg Westergaard, finally confirmed that news to the Post and Courier, though he declined to fault any equipment failure as the cause. Now, the equipment failure is sort of what PETA was alluding to, that there was some kind of issue with like a heater, but they have not given out, they meaning the Alpha Genesis lab has not given out that as an official reasoning, as you just heard. So we still have some questions. Apparently, though, the deaths were, caused by carbon monoxide poisoning, but it's still under investigation. And the president said they're looking at all aspects of this, including the possibility that extremists caused the incident. And this is according to the president. So, he's trying to say that they're looking at everything. It may not be the lab's fault. It could be some rogue extremist group, apparently. We'll see if that turns out to be the case. So if the company is looking at that, they certainly haven't reported it to the police, because the Yemassee Police Department, one of their spokespeople said to the Post and Courier that this was the first she heard about the potential issue. So I don't know how much credence we should give to that speculation, but obviously they did confirm that the deaths did happen, and it does involve carbon monoxide poisoning. It's under investigation. As I mentioned, these monkey deaths were first reported by PETA. They sent out things to different news organizations. They sent a complaint to federal regulators saying that they got a report from a whistleblower that said 20 monkeys died of carbon monoxide poisoning. A representative with the U.S. Department of Agriculture previously said the agency was reviewing the claims, but like I said, we haven't heard anything from them either. So at least there's a confirmation that this did in fact occur, but not a whole lot of information as to how or why. But of course, if there's any updates on this sad story, I'll be sure to pass it along. I have an update for you on the PragerU situation. Social studies lessons from that right-wing content creator are now available on the South Carolina Department of Education's website. On December 12th, department staff posted, under this name, PragerU Standards Aligned Resources, which is a signal that someone in the agency has reviewed all the videos linked to the page, many of which, as we've talked about, educators say are biased or contain errors. And this confirmed that they align with South Carolina social studies standards. We don't know who that person is, or how the material that has errors or any biases are not, how exactly those align with social studies standards, but okay. In addition to not disclosing who was vetting the videos, the Department of Education also didn't say how much time was spent on the task, and really haven't said much about the partnership with PragerU, which was announced about 3 months ago now. Over the past 3 months, a lot of people have voiced concerns about this partnership. That includes Democratic state lawmakers, the state's major teacher groups, parents that are showing up to local and state school board meetings. And in what is described by local media, specifically the Post and Courier, a rare public break with the superintendent or a couple school board members. Usually, the state board of education members are pretty aligned with the superintendent, and two of them, Beverly Frierson and Chairman David O'Shields, have actually stepped out and criticized the superintendent's rollout of this PragerU content, saying basically that she did it on her own without consulting them, and they don't really, they don't necessarily approve of it and didn't have the proper notification about it. Now, the content is still absent from the Education Department's Social Studies page, which provides instructional materials to teachers for everything from history, economics, geography, and other social studies classes. It is also absent from the department's Instruction Hub, which is a library of online resources that are available to local school districts. Instead, the content is posted on the agency's strategic engagement page alongside links to political topics, including the state's private school vouchers program and Gavin's Law, which is the state's new law against online sexual exploitation. So not only is the content available, but there's links to things, it's one thing to be learning about Gavin's Law. That makes sense. It's a new law in the state, learning about it. But that whole private school vouchers program is another political issue. Why are you rolling that out to children? Again, this right-wing content, it's laughable that this is being allowed. Again, if you are someone who is, more aligned politically on the right, think if this was some left-wing group pushing out left-wing ideologies, you would be rightfully upset about that. There shouldn't be anything like this going on. I've already ranted about that, so I don't need to continue down that path. But officials with public school districts in Charleston and Greenville told the Post and Courier that they have had no communication with their teachers or principals about PragerU. So that is good news if you have kids in the Charleston School District or in Greenville County School District. They are not doing anything with this PragerU nonsense. And our last story today involves Folly Beach and how some of the residents out there are growing more and more uncomfortable with what they see as the city's kind of easygoing approach to giving out taxpayer money to charities that are linked to leaders on Folly Beach. Specifically, public attention has focused in recent months on four-term Councilman DJ Rich, who over the last 14 years has voted on at least a dozen resolutions sending public dollars to three groups to which he has ties. Two of those groups accepted thousands of dollars in donations without registering as charities in South Carolina, which, yes, is required by state law. So, in addition to voting to give money to charities that he's involved with or has some kind of ties to, these are also organizations that are they're not cooperating with state law. So, lots of concerns, of course, are coming up about this. And it's not just him. Council members have voted on multiple occasions in recent years to provide taxpayer money to groups with which they are aligned. And Rich, he just has been front and center in several of these votes. And because it has ties, more of these ties have been going to things that he's involved with, even though other members on the board have done similar things. So the groups that he's involved with, one is the Folly Beach Exchange Club. He's the president of that. It's a nonprofit that has received at least $11,000 from Folly City Council since 2009. But the charity failed to comply with state regulations for decades, according to the Secretary of State's office. Councilman Billy Grooms serves as an officer with the club as well. So that's two folks on the board that have ties to the Folly Beach Exchange Club. So that group also, if you're unaware, they host fundraising events on the island, and in turn they they give out money to different programs, and that includes giving $6,500 to a group called Folly Angels. And this is according to different newspaper reports and posts on the group's social media platforms. And why is that important? Well, that group is headed up by Rich's grandmother and business partner, Florence O'Donnell. So there's another one. This is his grandmother's charity. and Folly Angels actually doesn't even exist anymore, and I'll get to that in a moment. It started in the 1990s. Again, it was started by Florence O'Donnell, DJ Rich's grandmother. It was started to assist cancer patients and other residents in need. But just like this is going to sound familiar, the organization never obtained its tax-exempt status from the IRS to operate as a nonprofit, nor did it register with the Secretary of State. And they were fined, and there was threats of legal actions, and ultimately the group, Folly Angels, this supposed nonprofit, shut down in October of this year. And this was coming again after threats of legal action and fines and letters from the Secretary of State accusing it of improperly operating as a charity and running a raffle. You're not supposed to do that if you're not registered as a charity. And, even though the group shut down, it was going to be suspended anyway in that same month, according to documents. Going back to Rich, he voted to send public dollars to the now defunct Folly Palooza Festival, which was a cancer benefit that, yes, you guessed it, he co-founded. And those public dollars, the money from the festival would help pay locals' medical bills. But no surprise here, it also gave money to, you guessed it, Folly Angels in the Exchange Club. You can see where all these are going, I'm sure. So there's obviously been some concern about this. Some Folly Beach residents have been frustrated with city officials for sending that taxpayer money to these organizations, despite all these mounting questions about their operations. Are they doing what they're supposed to? Forget about are they giving money to the places they claim they are? Why are they not registered as charities? Why are all these issues coming up? But despite residents being concerned about it, it's taken some time for media, to investigate these things. You can't just post that residents have these questions without having something to look. You have to actually look into the issue and report back on what you did or did not find. But they were getting so frustrated that they did a few things. One, an anonymous letter was sent to the city's finance director back in April, and it was imploring officials to create an ordinance that would stipulate that taxpayer support be limited to registered charities in South Carolina. Seems like a good idea, considering what we just learned. And then several islanders also contacted the Post and Courier, urging reporters to investigate the group's activity. None of them were willing to be quoted for the article, saying they feared being ostracized. So that's another great point that they had. Who wants to be the person who's wondering, if charities are operating appropriately? Maybe those charities did, in fact, give the money out the way they said, and they just didn't register for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't understand. Maybe whatever. And then now you're going to shut them down, and that takes away that charity money. So, of course, there's concern there. And also, these are people on the city council or are, big in the community there. So if you're looked at as the quote unquote whistleblower, even if you did nothing wrong, understandably, you might be concerned that there's going to be some sort of retaliation, perhaps. So, hopefully there is nothing shady going on. And, this new or the charity that's still in existence, the Exchange Club, will register and do what it needs to do to be official. But as of right now, there's still a lot of questions about what's going on Folly Beach. I highly, highly recommend that you visit the link in the show notes to this story. Post and Courier did an amazing job, reporting, researching, looking into this. It is a lengthy article. There's a lot more in there that I just kind of gave you the quick hits. So definitely check that out. It's a very good read, very interesting, and a lot more information is in there. And that'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. Thank you so much for listening. Have an amazing Christmas. I wish you the best out there. Thank you for taking some time to listen to this. Thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins with LMC Soundsystem for producing this and every episode of Holy City Center Radio. And also a big thank you to Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every show. I'll be back with you at some point this holiday week. Enjoy time with family, friends, whatever it is you're doing. I hope you have a safe and fun time. If you need plans, go to holycitycenter.com/calendar so you can see what's going on in town, not just this week, but all the way into the weekend, next month, and next year, and on and on and on. So be sure to check it out. Looking forward to being back with you already, but until then, good night and good luck.